tape of the service every Sunday afternoon.
That's real good.
Yeah.
Did you know Si LeClaire?
That name is familiar.
He was a Indian chief over in the Poncas too. Was you there the time that Geronimo shot his last buffalo?
No.
They brought Geronimo up there, and he shot his last buffalo from the back of an old Buick. Also, at one time they had a big, all the press were invited, I guess, from all over the world, really. I think they had about 100,000 people there, and that was before the days they had very many cars, I guess. Do you remember that time?
No, I don't recall it.
I expect that was when I was too little to care anything about it.
Do you remember when Tom Mix was out working on the ranch?
I remember Tom
that.
Did he work on the ranch out there?
Yeah.
What did he do there at the ranch?
What?
What did Tom Mix do on the ranch?
Oh,
I don't know, but I know he bulldogged the steers on the show.
I don't
With
know
his
what
teeth.
He kind of learned to be a cowboy out there, really, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just a regular
I guess so.
cowboy for a while, and then then later on, when he got a chance to get in the movies,
Now he was sheriff up around Dewey for a while.
Was he?
Yeah. Is this before he was sheriff or after?
when what I understood, I think that was before. He was tending bar in Oklahoma City when I think Zach met him down there and told him to come up to the ranch, and they went up and he went to work for them up at the ranch.
My brother used to be the only one that could take care of the ostriches.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the rest of them couldn't handle them. But my brother Bailey, he was a big, strong guy, and boy, he could take care of them.
They used to keep all their show wagons right there south of the river in that pasture there north of Marland, between
Yeah.
it and the river, didn't they? Had
Yeah.
all their equipment out in there
Mm-hmm.
for the Wild West show.
Yeah, Alma and I, we used to go pick off all kinds of fruit, peaches and apples, and she did not as many apples, but she said that the men would pick the peaches and throw them in the basket and just mash them all to pieces. So they're just all bruised up before they get them.
Do you remember that old stagecoach that sat over across there at Wall's place there? I think it was over the 101. That was supposed to have been the original Wild West or Deadwood Steak, wasn't it?
I think so.
But they also had one of those old Conestoga wagons that sat there for years. I don't know whether it still does or not. But
So they had it on this side of the river.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Up on the hill there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one time, my sister and I was going to Ponca in a car, and Zach Miller,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when the big bridge was out, and they had to go down to the little bridge.
Yeah.
Well, Alma got on the bridge first, and Zach was coming from the other direction, and he drove on. Well, there's both about them, and we was just a little bit past the middle of the bridge, Alma and I. And so Zach says, "Alma, back up." Alma says, "Back up yourself, I was on here first." She's just a kid, but she wasn't going to give 1 inch. She went, if she said that to me, I'd have just backed up. But Alma, she said, "Nope, I was on here first, and I'll stay here till dark before I'll move." And he kept arguing with her, and she held her. Oh, she said, "No, I'm just going to stay right here. I have got all the time in the world. You can back up, and I'll go on, and you can get across. But I'm not going to back up."
Zach had a daughter. What was her name?
Oh.
was it England?
Uh,
Married a man by the name of England, didn't she?
yeah. Alma?
Yeah, I believe that was it. I believe
Alma
that.
England.
And then she had a boy, George.
Mm-hmm.
Well, George and Zach's wife, the one that was from down, she was from down Louisiana somewhere, I think. Wasn't she?
I don't remember. I don't.
But
remember.
anyway, we tried to buy the trading post at one time, and we're going to make a museum out of it. It was a nice building. It was a very nice building. And she wanted to sell it to us, but he thought the state would take it, and he wanted to hold on to it. They had a lot of famous paintings, a lot of good things at one time, but they loaned a lot of them to people in Ponca City and for different things, and they lost a lot of them.
Yeah. I
A lot of
remember
money,
that. We was in Marland part of the time and I remember this. They had something to do at the hotel there one time, and they loaned them a bunch of those, and they never did get them back.
See, I heard a lot of this. I've seen a lot of that happen.
Zach sold a guy that lived out east of town, sold him a team of horses. And Zach says, just go up to the office and they'll take care of you. He drove the team home, never went to the office, and they never missed him for about a year.
George, Zach's boy, is the one that was telling me a lot of these things, you know, and Zach's wife had told me a lot of these stories.
Is he still living?
Yes, George is. I think she is dead. I think Zach's wife is dead. But I think, last time I knew, George was still up there at the trading post. I don't know
I
what he
haven't
is
seen
now.
any of them for a long time. We haven't been over even.
When did they establish the ranch originally?
Well, as long as I can remember, it's been there. I just really don't know. And I'm getting pretty old. I'm 81 or 2. How old am I? I have to look at the calendar.
So
See
it's
how old
84.
I'm 84. Born 1901. So that's, my memory's not as good as it used to be. But seems like I can remember things that happened when I was a kid more than I can the things that
Yeah.
happened.
How about the
6 months.
Depression in the 1930s? How'd that affect you all?
Oh.
You know, when I'd get $100 in the cash register, I'd run to the bank with it. Boy, it was hard pulling. I run that store over there, Crystal and I did, for 32 years. And we'd run that big general store in Marland for 10 years. And I retired in 1962, in February 62. I sold the stock and rented the building, and I guess, I don't know how long that guy stayed in the store. Over 5 years, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody will say, well, he lived in Butler, down by Clinton, and you lived over at Marland. How in the world did you two ever get acquainted? I said, well, he got out of the Army and he come to see his brother that was working in the bank at Marland, and I was working in the store. And the guy that I was working for had lost his little girl. She had a appendicitis and bursted. A kid at school knocked her down and bursted her appendix. And she died, and he took her back to Missouri to bury her. And that's how come him to get the store, this, because Derry wanted to get out. He wanted to go back to Missouri. He couldn't after his little girl got killed. But I was working for Derry when he bought the store, so that's how come I was going along with the fixtures.
They had a lot of nice, real fine buildings, a machine shop and everything out there at the 101 for different things.
But
They were real nice buildings.
It
really
isn't
nice.
there yet, is it?
There was one building back in behind, I can't remember what it was, and there was an old model Buick sitting there about 10 years ago. Sitting in it. I don't know what it was, but it was one of those.
Well, the
They
last
were
time I
vinyl
went to
buildings.
Ponca, somebody said, "Are you going to go by Marland?" I said, "No." Because if I go by Marland, I go by the 101 and all that, and I wanted to remember it like a,
Yeah. Was a bear there with the ticket cage when you
oh
took
yeah.
tickets?
My mama used to sell tickets when they had the show, you know, out there in that building. My mother would sell tickets and sell lunch too, whatever they wanted, you know. And I'd go clear at the very top with my book and read my book, and I didn't want to see it. I'd seen it so many times I knew it by heart, so I'd just go up to the top and read my book.
Yeah. Did you remember Guy Schultz?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew all the Schultzes.
Yeah. He was with the show for quite a while. Do you remember? There were a number of rodeo stars that were at their show. Do you remember Mabel Strickland?
No.
I don't.
My brother John was with the show a long time.
Yeah, I know he was. He told me about it.
And there were 3 Miller brothers, right?
Mhm.
George, is that Joe and Zach?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I heard Joe was killed in a car wreck.
George.
George.
Was what?
Killed
George was
in a
killed
car
in a car wreck.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, how much of the 101 ranch is left?
I haven't been by there for a long time, but somebody told me that, told me, said, "You better not go by there." I think it was my sister-in-law lived in Ponca. She said, it'd just make you sick. Said it just isn't the same as it used to be, so. When I go to Ponca, I go this other way. I don't go through Marland.
Now, this George Miller,
George, Zach's son. Now he was still living there the last
Yeah.
I knew in the store building, in the trading post.
anything else about the ranch you all can remember or about the Miller brothers?
I don't remember. My memory is not as good as it used to be. I've had 3 light strokes and 2 cancer operations, and I'm not what I used to be.
I remember Aunt Molly though better than any of them because she wouldn't let them baptize me in the dirty creek water.
Yeah.
She took me home to see.
I'll tell you a little story that I'll never forget. When Crystal's youngest sister was about 4 years old, she hung around the store quite a bit. Crystal was working. I think we were married then. Yeah, we were.
I so was.
Yeah. And we got egg cases knocked down, and I put them together back in the warehouse, see. And Molly was back there bothering me, and I said, "Molly, I wish you'd go in the drugstore and get some holes for these egg case nails."
She's about 4 years old.
Yeah. And she run in there. I mean, what's some nails for the holes for the egg case nails? And that guy said, "Oh,
I'm out."
I'm out. Said, "I think you can get them down the hardware." She went to the hardware, and
They
she
was
went
our
home
cousin.
crying after the hardware deal.
No, the hardware told her that that there wasn't no such a thing as holes for egg case nails. They're just making a monkey out of you, 'cause they was her cousins. And so then Molly, she went home a-crying, and boy, oh boy, my
her
mother was Irish, Scotch-Irish. And
come
boy, she
over
could
there
do
and
after
she
she
laid
kill him.
me down. I mean, she laid me out.
Says, "You made a fool out of one of my kids, but you're not going to make a fool out of another one."
Well, Harry, do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I want to get that.
Well, thank you.
dry goods side. And she saw that there's something wrong with me, so she just dropped the thing and walked out.
I didn't
Boy,
see there was something
wallered-
wrong with him. I knew what was wrong with him.
I watered that piece of goods that she was selling the lady. I had a time getting it measured and getting her weighted on, but we finally got it.
Sir, what's your first name?
Oh, they call me Nick,
Nick.
but my initials is N.O.,
N.O.
but over at the church they call me Nick.
His name is Orme, O-R-M-E. His
I
first
never
name
did
is.
like my name, so
He won't tell nobody what his name is.
Okay, this is
I have a habit, that was my nickname.
this is September 12th, 1985. This is Joe Todd and Harry Stegeman, an interview with Mr. and Mrs. N.O. Nichols in Enid, Oklahoma. Mr. Nichols, where were you born?
7 miles south of, what do I think of the name of the town? My brain ain't as good as it used to be. Ain't that awful? Lord.
Yeah, that gets kinda normal at times, with me too.
Well, it was in Illinois, but
In Illinois.
Well, it was,
Roadhouse?
no, Roadhouse was farther away on the other direction. Well, I'll think of it.
Anyway, it was in Illinois.
But you were born in Illinois, and when's your birthday?
7th of January. I was born 7th January 1892.
1892.
Turn that water off.
Who was your father?
Robert Nichols.
And your mother?
Ella. E-L-L-A. Ella Nichols.
What was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Phillips.
Phillips. What type of work your father do?
Did my father do?
Yes, sir.
He didn't do nothing, I don't think.
He didn't work very much.
His mother done all the work.
Crystal will never get over that. First time we went down there together, he was sitting on the porch in a rocking chair, and she was out making the garden.
Just a hoeing, just hard as she could work, and it was hot that day. And his dad just sitting there in the rocking chair, rocking away. Oh, I thought, boy, that's the worst I ever saw in my life. My daddy was a cripple. He walked with a cane all his life, but he'd get out and work in the garden. He said, that's not, to tell my mother, that's not your job. I'll teach the kids how to do it, but you just don't, you just stay out of the garden. And he was crippled.
Ma'am, where were you born?
Missouri.
Missouri. And when's your birthday?
March the 22nd. Born in 1901. Do you want to know how old I am?
Who was your father?
Felix Carson.
Felix Carson. And your mother?
Maggie Carson.
What was her maiden name?
Her name was, oh, wait a minute. God, all of a sudden. What was Mama's name before she was married? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
I can't think of it. Maybe I'll think of it.
I have read it in I've got it, Fabulous Empire. I know that it was the same, it'd been the same as his mother, yeah.
Yeah, I can't, you know.
What type of work did your father do?
Well, he run a saloon in Billings before Prohibition.
What, here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, Billings, Oklahoma.
Yeah. When did your family move to Oklahoma?
Well, I was just a little, I was a baby. So it must have been, I was born in 1901, so I guess it was around 1902 or 3.
What was the name of the saloon there in Billings?
What's that?
What was the name of the saloon?
I guess Carson Saloon, because that was my daddy's name, was Felix Carson. And I remember this much about it. There was where the saloon was, I was just a little kid then, but there was a bowl, what do you call it, where you shoot bugs?
Oh, pool hall?
Pool hall next door to it, I know that. And there was a door between them. And one day I started through there and Dad said, "Don't go in there, Crystal." He wouldn't let me go in the pool hall. I could go in the saloon, but I couldn't go in the pool hall.
What did the inside of that saloon look like?
Oh, I was only about 5 or 6 years old, so I can't remember exactly what it looked like.
Did it have chairs and tables in it?
Oh yeah, they had chairs and tables.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a door between the pool hall and the saloon.
Mm-hmm.
And they just went from the pool hall into the saloon. See? But there's one thing about it. My dad wouldn't let them get drunk. If they had one drink, well, that was enough. And if they'd say, "Well, I can take 2, Dad says, "Well, you'll have to prove it to me." So,
Where did your father get his whiskey?
oh, land, I don't know. I was only about 4 or 5 years old
Mm-hmm.
when he run the saloon, see. And I don't.
Did he run that saloon up till statehood day?
Yes. And then we moved from Billings to a farm just about a mile from Marland, Oklahoma now. It was Bliss then, but it's Marland now.
At statehood day, what did he do with all the whiskey?
I wouldn't know. I was just a little bitty kid, so I don't know what he did. I know Mama brought 2 bottles for medicine home with her. And after we were married, now that was a long time ago, see, when it was closed. And after I was married, my mother gave me one of the bottles for medicine. We only used it for medicine when we were sick, see. She gave us a tablespoonful when we had a bad cold or something. And there was 4 girls and 4 boys in our family, and none of them drank.
And only 2 of them are alive.
Mm-hmm. When did y'all get married? What year?
19...
See if you know.
Hmm?
Go ahead. I said I was going to see if you know.
No, I don't think I know.
Oh.
I guess it was along about 1917.
1918. You missed a
18.
year.
Missed a year.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble now.
Yeah.
Sir, when did your family come to Oklahoma?
In 1898.
Do you remember the trip coming down?
What?
Do you remember the trip to Oklahoma?
Yeah.
How'd you come?
Part of the way in a hack and part we come on the railroad to a little town.
Arkansas City?
That's as far west as the Rock Island was building. We had to get off there. Then we got on a hack to go out to the farm, which my dad had already been out there and filed on. And we got stuck in the middle of the Canadian River. Didn't have no bridge then. And the driver hit the team with a whip, and they broke the double tree. And Mother Lethem, our youngest, was in my mother's arms, and she jumped out in the river with that baby in her arms, and we had an awful time, but we finally got out, got it patched up, and he took us on. But it was something. Boy, I tell you, I never will forget that. I was 6 years old. I'm 93 now.
What, you get stuck, what, in the sand in the river?
Yeah, sand bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How come your family came to Oklahoma?
Well, we had 2 neighbors in Illinois, and they wanted Dad to go with them to Oklahoma. That was when they was getting land free, see. So the three of them went to Oklahoma and filed on farms joining each other. That is when they was filing after the run, you know.
Which run was that?
Hmm?
Is that the run of 93? Is that the Cherokee Strip?
Yeah, Cherokee Strip. So, what was I talking about?
About filing claim, 3 adjoining claims.
Oh yeah, they all come back then to move the families out there. Dad had 120 acres of Illinois land that he had inherited, and in Illinois at that time they didn't have any. I don't think they do yet. They didn't have any section lines. They just had roads and no section lines. And he run a store there right across the street from the schoolhouse where I started to school when I was 4 years old, because my brother was 6 and he wouldn't go to school unless I'd go with him. So when the teacher caught me tearing paper one day, she took me to the window and set me out, and I went across the street to the store, of course, where my dad was, and they had wooden boxes, I don't know what you call them, full of candy along there. And Dad says, well, you can stay and help me keep the kids out of the candy. And I thought I was doing something great.
What was the name of that school?
What was the name of it, Christopher? You
Well,
remember?
I don't know. I
Well,
didn't know you then.
It was the same name as the town, a little bitty town, but I can't think of the name of the town.
What part of Illinois is it in?
Green County.
Greene County?
Mm-hmm.
Asking me what it is, I never was in Illinois. I don't know what it was.
Why did your family move down here?
Well, I was born in Missouri, but my sister, just 2 years younger than me, was born in Billings, Oklahoma. So they've come pretty early.
You know why they moved here? Did they ever say?
No, I can't remember them ever saying why. They just moved to Billings, and my daddy run a saloon in Billings. That was in Prohibition time, you know, and when they could sell it. And then we moved to, well, it was Bliss then, it's Marland now. We lived on a farm just about a mile and a half from.
Why was it named Bliss?
Hmm?
Why was the town named Bliss?
Well, I don't know. That was the name they had on there when we went to move there. And then they changed it to Marland. They named it for Marland.
That is after E.W.
Yeah.
Marland, their old man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they changed the name.
Marland
But it was
told
Bliss.
some of us, says, you sent for the doctor after the patient was dead.
Bliss was about approximately a half a mile south and a half a mile east of Marland now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The town of Bliss,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the old
Kind of
Bliss.
right up on the hill there on the edge.
Old Bliss.
Mhm.
And we had a 2-story house, and we lived in an old Bliss, and they moved it with horses then, you know, and moved the houses all over to New Bliss. And my mother cooked our dinner meal while they was moving our house to the new location. All of us kids stayed in the house. We just stayed in the house while they moved it.
How many wagons did it take to move the house?
Oh, I don't know, but they had about 8 horses, I think, on there, but I don't know how they done it, but I was just a little kid, so. But I thought that was good, was getting to ride in the house for a new home.
As kids, what chores did you two do around the house or on the farm?
Oh, chores?
Yeah.
I done did a lot of milking, the cows, and they had, we had, well, Dad began to buy farms when he first got out there because they were real cheap then, and he wound up with 5 farms. I've still got one of them, and I done everything that you do around the farm. I plowed and picked cotton. We raised cotton. Cotton was the only paying crop we had in those days.
How about picking off the fruit off
Nobody
the fruit
had
trees
any
and throwing them at
binders
your
or
brother?
thresh machines either.
You didn't tell that, did you? Picking the fruit off the fruit trees and throwing them at your brother. You didn't tell him that, though.
Oh, I forgot what did you say?
You and Dalphie was a fighting with the peaches off of the peach tree and throwing them at each other
Oh yeah,
when your mother caught you.
yeah. Oh, we had a lot of.
She told me about that after we were married, but
How many pounds of cotton could you pick in one day?
Well, I averaged about 200 pounds, but I have picked over 300 in a day. That's from sun up till sundown.
How many pounds could you pull?
The pulling was after my days. We picked it, and there was 2 girls and 2 boys in my family, and we'd pick 2 bales a week. And Dad had to haul them 14 miles to the gin, that's to Foss, and we'd pick it 2 barrels a week for him.
Where were your farms located? The homesteads?
Custer County,
Custer County?
Butler. Our homestead is a half-mile west of where Butler is now. There was no Butler there when we come, but the Clinton and Oklahoma Western Railroad built a road, and they come through Butler and through our home place and through one of the other farms, and there was no Butler there. We walked 4 miles to school the first 2 years. The schoolhouse was west of us 4 miles on the Wichita River, and it was just up on the bank of the river. We rode, my brother and I were the only ones old enough to go to school then. We rode an old gray mare. She was an old cow mare Dad had bought, and she would, we'd take the bridle off and let her go up to the river to get her a drink, and then she'd graze around close to the schoolhouse all day long. We'd go out and get a hold of her fetlock and put her head down one at a time, and she'd throw us back on her back. She had more, Dad said she had more sense than we did.
Ma'am, what chores do you do around the house, around the farm?
we didn't live on farm very long. We lived in Billings until I was 6 years old, and then we moved on a farm, but I didn't do anything outside, only just get into trouble. Was a boy. I had 4 brothers older than me, and a sister older than me. And
What you do around the house?
wash the dishes and make the beds and sweep the floors. That was my that was mine and my sister's job.
Who did the laundry?
Mother and my older sister. They done the laundry.
How'd they do it?
On the washboard. Did you ever see a washboard?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's the way she done it. And there was
You set that
8.
washboard in a tub, don't you?
Yeah. And there was 8 of us children. And of course, my oldest brother had joined the Navy before my baby sister was born. But my mother washed on a washboard for all of us kids. Carried the water in and put it in the tubs, carried it out and emptied it.
You might, I might tell you, I don't know if you're interested or not, but where we met, Crystal and I had been discharged from the Army at Camp Funston, Kansas. And my brother worked in the bank for the 101 there at Marland, at Bliss then. And I stopped off to see him. And the guy that had the only general store in town wanted to sell it. He was going to go back to Missouri.
He'd lost his little girl. She had appendicitis and fell off of a porch at school and bursted the appendix. And that's the
So
reason he wanted to go back to Missouri.
the 101 was interested in keeping the store in town because it was the only general store. It had one little grocery store. Didn't amount to much. But we had a big store. It went from back to the alley. And I said, I don't have any money. And George says, well, you don't need any money. We've got plenty of money. And they did have at that time. They finally went broke, but at that time they had plenty of money. But anyway, I bought it then. And I paid it out. It only come to $3,700, I think it was. And I paid it out in 2 years. Crystal was working in this store, and I kept her on. And in about a year, I married her. That was.
And so he wouldn't have to pay
Yeah, I
me.
remember you told me one time you got her with the stuff.
Yeah.
He married me so he wouldn't have to pay me that $5 a week. I think he was paying me at that time.
Oh, I raised your wages to $7.
$7 a week?
Yeah, we opened up the store about 7 o'clock of a morning and stayed until all the farmers wanted to go home. They had sit around they had big wood stove and coal stove or whatever. And the farmers would stay until sometimes, well, the
We had a
women would go to
picture show.
the picture show and the men would come in there, and we had a thing around the stove for them to spit in. This chewed tobacco all the time. And
Sand, it was
Yeah.
sand, you know.
that was a mess.
What was the name of that store?
Well, it was Nichols after he bought it, but H.L. Dairy. I worked for H.L. Dairy. See, when he bought the store, I just went along with the fixtures.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was there,
Yeah,
and he had to pay me
there
$6
wasn't
a
no
week.
pavement through there,
Opened up 6
and
o'clock
we
in
had
the
a
morning.
good business. The road was too rough for him to go to Ponca City.
Yeah. What year did you buy the store?
When?
Yes, sir. What year?
The year I got out of the Army was, do you remember, Crystal? I don't remember the year. It was,
Before
it
you.
was after the World War I,
Yeah.
and I was in the first draft because I wasn't married, and I was working in a store then. I was drafted from Colorado. I'd went out there and filed on 320 acres of land. And
What part of Colorado?
near that town. It had to pass over the mountain to this town did.
Trinidad?
No, it wasn't Trinidad. It was farther west then. It was right along the edge of the mountain.
Durango?
Hmm?
Durango?
No. No. My brain was working. I went to school out there and got a certificate and taught school. And I was drafted out of the schoolroom.
Remember the name of the school?
Hmm?
Do you remember the name of the school you were teaching in?
No, I don't remember.
Where'd you go for your basic training?
Camp Funston, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got away from Camp Funston. I never went across.
Mm-hmm.
When lined up about 300 of us on this train, and these guys come along and look at us, step forward, one step. And they stepped me forward, and I was one of about, I guess, around 40. And we were put in the camp headquarters.
I guess they looked at you and thought you couldn't shoot straight anyway.
And I stayed in camp headquarters all during the war.
What were your duties there?
Huh?
What were your duties in the headquarters?
I was provost guard. In the provost guard. I was a corporal for 6 months. The last 6 months I was in the Army, I was a corporal, but I was acting corporal all the time from the time I got in there. But they didn't pay me, only just for first class private. $30. $33 for first class, $36 for corporal. $36 a month.
What were your duties?
Hmm?
What were your duties there? And
Boy, they were so varied, it'd take a week to tell you all the experiences I had. I'll tell you one little experience. At that time, they sent me after guys that were deserted, you know, and actually, provost guard's what I was. I didn't walk post, but I had a pass on all the railroads. And anyway, over here in northeast Oklahoma, what's the name of the town? I forgot it. Anyway, Oklahoma, Kansas, I caught this guy working on a section, or, you know, I can't remember names, towns, over in northeast Oklahoma anyway. He was
what,
working,
around Nowata or Bartlesville?
no, it's northeast of there,
Miami?
close to there, I think. He
Is
was
that
working,
Afton, that area?
I don't know whether I'd know it or not if I'd hear it. So I got him, and it was the rule of the government at that time, no matter what they had done, you had to handcuff them to you to bring them in. So I got this old boy, and he commenced to tell him, I told him, there's one thing that you did was wrong. You throwed your clothes away, your army clothes, and got these old blue jeans, and I said, that's the only thing you'll have to explain, why you did that, or because that made you a deserter. Mm-hmm. And he studied a little while, and pretty soon he said, you know, I put them clothes under my pillow, and some nigger done stole my clothes. He was a Negro. Done Negro still stole his clothes.
While he was asleep, I guess.
And we, Kansas and Oklahoma, one of them had the Jim Crow law, but I forgot which one it
Oklahoma
was.
did.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't I had to keep him handcuffed to me, and they wouldn't let me in the... You've had that experience, haven't
I
you?
can see what happened, though.
Yeah. And so I went in what they used to have, a smoking compartment. And I went in there with him, and one of the brakemen or conductor or something come in, said, you can't do that. You'll have to go in the Negro section. I said, well, soldiers neither white nor black. And I said, I'm not going in the section he said, well, we'll have to stop the train and put you off. And I had a 6-year. I wore the thing till I had warts on my hip. And I just put it over in my lap. There were 3 or 4 guys smoking in there. And I said, well, if you do, it'll be the last guy you ever put off. And he laughed. He didn't want no more to do with me. And they all, patted me on the back for it and everything. But here come another one. I had to scare him off too. And
Yeah, you wouldn't have shot a fly.
no, I never shot. I almost shot a man one time. They was having trouble at a gate in the east part of the. They was coming through there without a pass, and it was winter time, and they sent me down there to see if I could do something about it. And guy come along in an old Model T, and it was colder than the dickens, and he wasn't supposed to. They wasn't supposed to come in there, and I tried to stop him, and he just kept going. And I got my gun out and almost shot him. And finally I saw that he couldn't get his feet on the pedal.
Oh,
Yeah, it's cold.
He
see?
couldn't stop.
He had them wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it scared him to death, and it scared me too. But
So you spent the whole war there at Camp Funston.
yeah, all the way through. Caught one guy, or me and a couple of other guys, a couple of my company. The guy, we had a great big water tank up on the hill, and we caught a guy in civilian clothes that had a bunch of poison that he was trying to put it in the tank. And we got him, he got sent up. Oh, we had a lot of things happen. We had a hostess house where civilians and soldiers both could go. And I think I did about 4 months at that hostess house. And we had some terrible things happen. People don't, well, you feel sorry for them, yet they're doing things that you've got orders for them not to do. Yeah. And the policeman, one of them called me from town east of there, I forgot the name of it, and said we're trying to catch a girl that's been having too close relations with the soldiers, and we think she's on a interurban that runs from Manhattan to Junction City, and said if she comes in there, you call me. He gave me his number, and so she did. She got off there, and I went and told her in a nice way that they're looking for you. And she bladed out something. I don't know what it was. I forgot, but she got hostile about it. And so I just went back to the phone. We had to have about a half a dozen phones in there. I went back to the phone, called the old boy. He come out and got her. Put her in jail. She wrote me a letter. I don't know how she got my name, but she did. I guess from that soldier, that one caught her, come after her, but he was civilian. She said she just wanted me to know that she was going to commit suicide, that all her life was no good anymore and all that stuff. But I never did answer it. I don't know whether she committed suicide or not.
Ma'am, what did you do during the war?
Oh, I was such a little kid. I had to do my brothers. I had 4 brothers that went to the, 2 of them in the Navy and 2 in the Army. So the girls that was left had to do the boys' chores. so we just, that's just what we did. And every night when we'd start upstairs to go to bed, why, my parents would say, don't forget to pray for your brothers. So I guess we done a good job, 'cause all 4 of them come back.
What chores did you have to do there at the farm when they were?
We didn't
in the
have a
army?
farm, we just had a big garden and we had ponies, of course. We didn't have a car then, we had ponies. But my daddy drove in a buggy. But they all four of my brothers come back. It was all in foreign waters at one time.
Mm-hmm. What work was your father doing at that time?
He was running a filling station. He run a saloon in Billings, and then when Prohibition come on, we moved to a farm just a little ways out of Bliss it was then, but it's Marland now. And then he run a filling station there in Marland.
And drove a buggy to work.
Yeah, but after the town moved from Old Bliss over to New Bliss, they called it Marland then, why, he had a filling station that he didn't have to drive. But my daddy was crippled. I never remember my daddy did even walk with a cane.
Mm-hmm.
So when he'd leave the filling station, he'd call home, and some of us kids would go meet him. 'Cause if he'd fall down, he couldn't get up without help.
Mm-hmm.
And the only help we had to do, he had a cane, but when he'd try to pull up by it, it'd fall over. So we'd have to hold his cane so he could push up with it.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any knitting for the soldiers or
No.
wrap bandages?
I was only about, I guess, 12 years old.
No, you'd been what, 16 in 1917?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in 1970,
Yeah.
yeah, 60. I was still going to school.
Yeah. What did you two do on Armistice Day?
What?
On Armistice Day, the day the war ended.
Oh.
At Camp Funston, what happened?
Everything. But there were several divisions went out of Camp Funston, but I was attached to headquarters, and I never did get an order to go.
Mm-hmm. Was there a big celebration there?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you do that day? How'd you celebrate?
Well, I don't remember, but I think I was posted that day at the I get my brain to working. Hostess house. I think that's where I was. I know a lot of little things was a happening, and I couldn't remember them all, but I remember one thing that a lady come to see her son, mother, and she said that she had heard that his division was leaving. Now this wasn't Armistice Day. And she wanted to see him before he left. I said, well, they're on the track, in the train right now, and they won't let you see him. They won't let you down there. You couldn't go south of the highway, but north you could. That's where the host house was. And I said, well, I felt sorry for her. I said, now tell you what you do. They're on the track now, and that was about 4 blocks, maybe 5. I said, you just walk down that street, and just like you was supposed to, and maybe nobody will stop you. And when you get to the train, till you get down there, you may be able to see him. She went down there, and by golly, she got there, nobody stopped her, and she got to see her boy and talk to him, and she sent me, even after I was married, she sent me things, didn't she? And I never did see her again, but she kept track on me for a long time.
Appreciated it, didn't she?
Yeah, yeah.
What else happened on Armistice Day there?
Hmm?
What else on Armistice Day at Camp Funston? Anything else you can remember?
No, I can't. I know that everybody was, kind of upset and everything. But her brothers, they were all in the service right up till Armistice Day.
Oh, and either, there's 2 in the Navy, and there's both on foreign waters, and the other 2 was in foreign country.
What'd you
And they
do
all come back alive.
What'd you do on Armistice Day?
Oh heavens, I think we just had a big celebration, because we figured our brothers was coming home. We all just was so thrilled that it was all over, and that we could see our brothers again.
Miss Nichols, how are you related to the Miller brothers?
Well, Aunt Molly Miller was my daddy's aunt. That was the Miller brothers' mother. Was my daddy's aunt.
They sure helped me get started. Of course, partly because my brother was working in the bank that they owned a controlling interest
Yeah,
in.
and partly because Mama okayed you.
Yeah.
They called my mother and said, is Crystal gonna stay working at the grocery store? Mama said, well, I think so, if he wants her to work there. And so George L. says, well, I'll tell you. My mother's name was Maggie. Says, I'll tell you, Maggie, if she quits the store, you let us know. Because they loaned him the money to buy the store, see? 101 did. So I used to go out and pick fruit for Aunt Molly. She had an orchard, they had an orchard there. And she said all the men, they'd pick the peaches and stuff and just throw them in and mash them, So my sister, just 2 years younger than me, and we would go out and pick cherries and peaches and apples and everything for Aunt Molly.
Well, they had a nice place around
Oh,
there.
yeah,
didn't
and the
they?
biggest orchards.
Now, was that at the big White House?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So my sister, just 2 years younger than me, she was so bashful. And so Aunt Molly's come out and she said, girls, our lunch is ready. Come on in and eat now. Oh, Alma, she was so bashful. That was my sister, 2 years younger than me. She wasn't going in there. She wasn't going in there. So I went in and I told Aunt Molly, I said, Aunt Molly, Alma's too bashful. She won't come in. She said, well, do you want me to just fix her a lunch and let her eat out there and you come in and eat with us? Or I said, well, no, I don't want to leave her out there by herself. I said, I'd rather just fix lunch for both of us. We was picking peaches or apples or something for her. We always went out and picked the fruit because she said the men folks just throw them in the baskets and bruised them all up. And of course Alma and I was just kids, and we was careful with them and we laid them in easy. And but Alma was so bashful she wouldn't go in, so Aunt Molly had them bring us all out a big tray of food, and everything that you could think of was on it.
What all did you sell in the store?
What all did we?
Yeah.
We had dry goods and groceries, everything. Meat.
we
butcher
had a
shop.
warehouse about,
Went towards the alley,
yeah,
and
and
the store went from the front of from the
the-
street towards the
the
alley.
railroad then was the big thing, you know. And salesmen come along and sell one merchant in this town, one merchant in this town, 3 towns. You get a carload of salt for the cattle, squares,
Squares.
you know. And we were in on that every year.
How
We-
big was the store? You say it went from the street to the alley?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How,
The warehouse and the store building, you know.
okay, how many feet would that be? How long? How deep?
About 140,
Yeah, at least that.
And then how wide was the building?
25.
25?
We had dry goods on one side and groceries on the other side, and a butcher shop in the back.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you get the beef for the butcher shop?
Where did you get the beef, Dad?
We didn't have any,
We didn't have fresh beef, did we?
no, we didn't have any
And
fresh
bacon and,
meat. We just had cured meats and bologna and stuff like that.
Where'd you get that?
Well, we got it at Arkansas
Cudahy.
City, Kansas.
Cudahy. I remember that.
Cudahy, yeah.
Cudahy Meat Company.
Yeah, that was in Kansas.
How'd they ship that meat?
Well, the train run,
I mean, was it refrigerated, or how did they?
I imagine it was, wasn't it, Dad?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Tell me about the Miller brothers. What kind of people were they?
Well,
They were darn nice to
yes,
me.
he was. That was all. Joe, I had a birthday party for him after we were married, and Joe Miller come. Well, I think George did too, didn't he?
Yeah,
But
he went home
the
early.
rest of them all went home about midnight. And Joe stayed until 4 o'clock in the morning, and we had to open up the store at 6. His birthday, see, we're having a birthday party for him. So George and Joe both come, and
They
George
sure was
went
good
home,
to
but
us.
Joe, he stayed all night, stayed all night. He left that next morning about the time we was getting ready to go to work.
Zach,
What year was that?
Zach was the youngest of
What
the
year
three.
was it, Dad? What year was that? It was after we built our home there. I mean, it was in our new home.
Yeah. Well, we moved away from there in 30 and we were there 10 years, about 1920.
What kind of personality did they have?
Who, Miller Brothers?
Yeah.
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because Aunt Molly was my daddy's aunt. So I thought they was wonderful. And George he was a businessman, and
He's the
Joe, he was,
brains.
yeah, and Joe, he was the one that had the show, you know, on the road, and he was the playboy. He's the one that come and stayed at the party I had for him all night. He stayed till the next morning, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He finally went home. Just him and Army and me playing cards. He just stayed and stayed, and we had to open up the store at 6 o'clock.
You know,
But they
Her-
was really good to us, I mean, to my mother and all.
her youngest brother was, what do you call him? He was a,
Sheriff.
huh?
He was the sheriff. For Marland, you mean?
No, I mean with the show. He went with
Oh,
the show.
with the show, yeah.
Is
He
this
was-
John?
John, yeah,
I got acquainted with him.
yeah.
What did he do with the show?
Oh, I guess he was the, what do you call him, Dan?
Huh?
What do you call him when they,
Well,
See, watched
he
over-
carried the gun.
yeah, he was the policeman, I guess you'd
Yeah.
call him.
Yeah.
Security, policeman?
Yeah.
Yeah, security. And he wasn't afraid of nobody.
No, one time, was that after you come there, wasn't it, Dad, when they had all them robberies, and they was all way out there by the railroad track?
Yeah.
And my mama was just scared to death, but John was out there, and he stayed till they run them all off. There was,
Yeah, and one time there was a guy robbed a store. Red Rock was only 7 miles south of Bliss, and he was county officer then, and somebody called him and told him, and he started down there and had to cross the track, railroad track. he caught this, met this guy coming north. Well, they told him they thought he was coming north, and he met him right on the railroad track.
And he couldn't, see, it was just one car at a time could cross. So John got on it and he wouldn't stop, and he wouldn't get off because he knew that guy's wanted for one. That's the one he was after, so he just stopped his car right on the track. He couldn't get away.
What do you think about the Miller brothers? What kind of personality do they have? Were they all the time happy, jovial, or what?
Pretty much that way.
George L. was a business. He had the business brain. Joe was a playboy. He didn't worry
You
about
want to know how they lost their money?
Yeah. What happened?
Well, they had a cousin that come there and went to work for them, and he lost his drilling oil wells without any
Without any oil.
without any oil, yeah.
Dry holes.
There was drilling dry holes, and I think that's what he had to borrow a lot of money from some eastern guy, guys or whatever it was. Anyway, he borrowed a lot of money, and he never could pay it back.
Yeah, circus kinda, or their Wild West show kinda got where it would cost so much money to move it, didn't it? That
Yeah.
made it hard, and finally just left that.
He never struck a well. He drilled several dry holes and made it very expensive.
When did the Wild West show finally end?
Fold up.
Yeah, fold up.
It was when we was still at Marland, wasn't we?
Yeah.
When we come over here in 1930.
When about 26 or 27,
I think
somewhere
so.
in there.
Somewhere along there.
I thought it was,
Yeah.
something like that.
Did you know Frank Marshall?
No.
He was the band leader for the Wild West show.
Who?
Frank Marshall?
No, I
I
didn't know.
knew a lot of some of the women. You know that one that had the baby, on it, and
Yeah.
there in Marland, and she left her baby there with the family to take care of while she went back on the show. And I knew some of them. In fact, my brother John was on the show for a long time.
Yeah,
Just
he
2 years
traveled
ago.
with it quite a
Yeah.
while, didn't
Yeah.
he? I think
What?
he told me that too, yeah.
When we lived in Amarillo, the show come through there, and John come and said, "How many tickets you want, Crystal?" I said, "I don't know but 2 that I want." I said, "I don't know anybody that wants to go," but he
What was
said,
your favorite part of the show?
"Oh, I don't know
What's the question?
what was his favorite part of the show." See, it didn't interest me too much because all the time when I was a kid growing up, while they had, Wild West things out there that
Rodeos.
yeah, and we went to, and my mother, she served the ice cream and the drinks and everything
I
for 'em.
sold tickets to them.
And I'd go up to the very highest place I could get and take my book and read. I'd seen it so much, I knew it by heart.
Yeah.
And there was
What did the
one-
show consist of? What kind of acts did they have?
Well, there's one Negro.
Bill
The-
Pickett?
Bill Pickett.
Bill
yeah.
Pickett?
Yeah. He would bite the nose of his
Calf, and
and
throw it
and throw it down
with his teeth.
with his teeth.
And finally, when his teeth all come out, why, they said he gummed them. Yeah, he just gummed them and threw them down.
I had a poem that I got that Zach had wrote about Bill Pickett, and it was in the old store building there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Here, well, in fact, your brother and sister-in-law were there at that time of staying there and looking after it. And it was, I still have it. I gave it to him at the museum one time.
What other acts did they have in the show besides Bulldogger? What else did they have?
Oh, they just had about everything, didn't they?
riding broncs and riding calves, and most of it was just Wild West stuff.
How many Indians did they have in the show?
I don't know. Do you, Dad?
No, I don't.
I know I had two brothers there.
You know, I sold
Most
tickets.
of the time. My oldest, but my youngest brother and my
Nearly every year, they want me to help sell tickets to the show. And there was 3 of us sold tickets to a little thing and had 3 sides to it. And so some of them get so excited to get in, they'd forget their change and walk off. So I'd put it up, just an old frame thing there, and I'd put it up there, save it for them.
I use your telephone.
yeah, go ahead.
And one of the other guys was helping, said, "Don't do that," said, "stick it in your pocket." I said, "No, I don't want to do that." Now, I don't remember one of them ever coming back for their change.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I guess I don't know what
Hello,
come of it. I
Cecil.
don't remember.
This is Harry Stegeman. We'll be over in a little.
Aunt Molly Miller was my mother's aunt, my daddy's aunt. And so we lived in Marland then, and when they baptized the people that joined the church, they took them to the creek. And so Mama was talking to Aunt Molly and told Aunt Molly that I was going to be baptized. And she said, "Where?" Mom said, "Well, they take them to the creek." "No, they're not going to take Crystal to the creek." Says, "I'll come and get her and take her up to Ponca and have her baptized in the baptistry." So, a friend of ours down the street, she had joined church too, and she wanted to know if Aunt Molly would let her go too, so she could be baptized up there. Aunt Molly says, "Sure, she can go, I don't care." So Aunt Molly sent her chauffeur, and well, she brought her chauffeur, she come with her. And took us to Ponca City so I could be baptized in the baptistry, because our church didn't have a baptistry.
What church was it?
It was a Christian church in Marland where I joined. But it was,
the
you know, a
only
little
church
town
in
like
Marland.
that,
Oh,
they
yeah.
just, they just don't have baptistries, they just took them to the creek and baptized them.
How many rooms did the White House have in it?
Rooms? Oh, I don't really know exactly. There was a lot of them though.
Remember what type of furnishings they had in them?
No, I don't remember. I was in it, but I can't remember. That's been a long time ago. See, that was when I was just a,
Where did you get the name 101?
They had that many quarter sections of land at one time. Had control of them. A lot of them was Indian land.
101 quarter sections?
Yeah.
Hmm.
They had 101 quarter sections at one time.
yeah, my sister and I, we used to go pick peaches for Aunt Molly and apples for Aunt Molly and cherries and the only thing, when she wanted us to pick blackberries, why I told Mom, I said, "I don't like to pick blackberries. You have to crawl on the ground and there's bugs in the ground." So Mama told Aunt Molly, said, "Well, the girls are kind of afraid of the bugs on the ground. They don't like to pick the blackberries." She said, "Well, I'll let the men pick the blackberries then, but will they please pick the the fruit for me. Said the men just throw them in the baskets and bruise them all up. And so we always picked her fruit for her.
Tell me some more about Aunt Molly. What?
Oh, she's a wonderful woman. There wasn't none any better than Aunt Molly. She was really a wonderful woman.
Who was she married to?
Well, her husband's name was Uncle George, they call him, but I never did know him. I was too little, I think, when he passed away, but I thought Aunt Molly was, she was wonderful.
They are buried in the Ponca City Cemetery, are they not?
Yeah.
George and your Aunt Molly.
I think so. Yeah, well, in fact, I know so.
The whole
because
family is, aren't
Yeah.
they? George and,
George, I was active at his funeral, but I don't know why. But I read
Well,
the
wasn't
scripture.
he a Mason?
Oh yeah, I guess it was on
He
the
was
account of the
a-
Masons. I was head of the Masons at that time, and I know I read.
Done the Mason part of it.
Zach though is buried up on the hill up there south of the river, on Cowboy Hill.
Yeah, he wanted to be buried on
Yeah,
top
he's
of
buried
it.
up there. I think, is his wife buried up there with him now too?
I don't know.
She was alive last time I seen her,
Yeah.
but then I know she died since.
But I haven't been over there, and I don't.
And also, Webb, the Turf Rifle Shop, is buried up there too.
What's left out there at the ranch?
I haven't been through there in a long time, but I don't think there's much of anything left.
I think the trading post is still left there, I think. Last time I was.
Somebody told me that the White House, that's Aunt Molly's
It's all
home.
gone.
That's what
The
somebody
only
told me.
thing that was left is the two posts in front of the. in
I
front
said,
of it.
well, I don't want to go that way anymore. We used to go to Ponca City, you know, because I had a brother lived there. He's passed away now. But I'd go around the other direction because I didn't want to go.
Many memories.
I didn't want to go by there. I didn't want to go by the 101 because I just wanted to remember when it was all there and not all.
They were awful good to us
Oh,
in more ways than one.
Bill Pickett's buried up there on that hill by White Eagle, where White Eagle is buried.
What else do they do for you besides loaning you the money to buy the store?
What else did they do for me?
Yeah.
Well, Joe come play cards with us all night, didn't he?
Well, I paid them back in 2 years for what they loaned me, because everything went up. I bought dry goods at 7 cents a yard that I sold for 35. And shoes that I bought for $5, I get 12 for them. And we made a lot of money. And Crystal and I was just running it alone then. Afterwards, we had